The Russian president has ordered his strategic nuclear defense forces on heightened alert.
President Putin has ordered Russia's strategic nuclear forces to be placed on high alert.
Pentagon tonight criticizing Vladimir Putin's decision to put his nuclear forces on alert.
Перевести силы сдерживания российской армии в особый режим несения боевого дежурства.
Putin put his nuclear arms on alert. We don't know if he's talking about short range, if he's talking about the big stuff that can get here. What's he doing?
So he's got 4 levels of readiness for his nuclear weapons, and right now he's at the 2nd level, which is elevated. I think what he's trying to do is message the West. He's trying to extort us. He knows that right now significant provision of military assistance, that's Stingers and Javelins and other military equipment, is helping Ukraine stay in the fight. And timing is on President Zelensky's side and his brave Ukrainian citizens who have taken up arms in defense of democracy. You know, just a short while ago, it seems, Ukraine was trying so hard to join NATO, and there wasn't a lot of interest among NATO members in admitting Ukraine. And now it's as if NATO is out there joining Ukraine in the fight for what matters most, liberty and freedom, against this unprovoked Russian brutal aggression.
Vladimir Putin puts his nuclear forces on high alert, and Russia's currency, the ruble, plummeted against the dollar. Ukrainian resistance has slowed down the Russian advance, but it is still pushing forward into the country, according to a U.S. senior defense official. Last night, Russian forces claimed to have captured a Ukrainian port city of 100,000 people, but Kiev is still under Ukraine's control, although satellite images showed Russian troops advancing toward the capital. This, as Ukrainian officials say, after intense fighting, they took back control of Kharkiv, the country's 2nd largest city. According to the Ukrainian health minister, more than 350 people have died since the Russian invasion began, including 16 children. Meanwhile, neighboring Belarus, Russia's ally, may be prepared to join in with the war.
Yeah, quite right. The ruble has sunk to another record low. The Moscow Central Bank, Russia's central bank, has doubled its key interest rates from 9% to 20%. There have been queues at some cash points around the country for several days now as people try to get out as much cash as they can. But I think your average Russian probably isn't noticing too much of a difference right now. That will, of course, change. Bear in mind, though, that very many people here in Russia get their main information from state television, which continues to celebrate and support Mr. Putin and his war in Ukraine. Not that that's what they're calling it. And they are perpetuating the message from the Kremlin, which is that it is prepared for Western sanctions. It was expecting those Western sanctions. And even when those sanctions do start to bite and people really start to feel the pinch here, the Kremlin is likely to continue its message, which is that these are another illustration of Western aggression.
So I think Vladimir Putin is running out of cards to play on this one, and that's what we're seeing. He's using the nuclear card, and that's a risky one.
And so you're saying he's using the nuclear card right now to get the NATO countries to not send stuff to Ukraine that's going to help them blow up his tanks. But at the same time, I'm sure you saw a little while ago, Marco Rubio, who sits on one of the Intel committees, said, I can't say much, but Mr. Putin is acting erratically.
Yeah, so I think Senator Rubio is speaking from a position of knowledge. He's on the Senate Intelligence Committee, so he's reading a lot of intelligence reports. He can't get into the sources and the methods, but he's giving us his best analysis of Vladimir Putin's state of mind. Let's keep in mind that Vladimir Putin, this is nothing like what he's done in the past.
A Pentagon official says the Ukrainian resistance has been quite creative in finding ways to attack columns, but also warning Russia has a very significant amount of combat power still available in and out of the country. Russian President Vladimir Putin now putting his nuclear deterrent forces on high alert, claiming his country is under threat by NATO countries.
This is really a pattern that we've seen from President Putin through the course of this conflict, which is manufacturing threats that don't exist in order to justify further aggression.
Ukraine has agreed to send a delegation to the border of Belarus Monday to speak with Russian negotiators, but in this video message, the president of Ukraine warns talks likely won't succeed. The international backlash against Russia growing. The U.S. and its European allies barring some Russian banks from the international payment system SWIFT. The EU now agreeing to ban all transactions of Russia's central bank and freeze its assets.
Would Putin really use them? He practiced a week ago, overseeing exercises of Russia's strategic deterrence forces. Typically unsubtle hints to America and NATO not to stand in his way over Ukraine.
An unelected, unaccountable, authoritarian and frankly increasingly deranged dictator in the Kremlin by the name of Vladimir Putin.
You won't hear anything like that on Russian state TV. It's been claiming that Russian troops are liberating eastern Ukraine and that Moscow is using force in the interests of peace. In Russia, television remains the key tool for shaping public opinion. So if you control TV, as the Kremlin does, you control the messaging.
Well, the Kremlin is keeping an extremely tight grip on how the information is being disseminated here in Russia. So this morning we had yet another update from the Ministry of Defense talking about the gains that Russia is making, saying that they have now destroyed something like 1,100 military targets in Ukraine. No mention at all of any Russian casualties in that daily report. Now this is interesting because just yesterday, for the very first time, the ministry did admit that there had been losses, but it did not specify numbers or give any further details. And actually the authorities here have now banned an independent website which had been publishing information about dead and captured Russian soldiers. So the Kremlin continues to try and keep a lid on the way that this invasion is being presented and the information coming in to its citizens.
Russia has now committed about 2/3 of those 150,000 troops it had massed around the border, 100,000 troops. And it has not been able to take a single major city. But you have to look at it and say they've still got 50,000 there on the border ready to commit.
Thousands of refugees are fleeing Ukraine, crowding into trains or walking miles through the night. This Ukrainian boy teared up, explaining he and his mother left their father behind to fight. Some returned from Poland on Sunday to fight for their native country.
I just can't sleep calmly. I woke up and I cried.
Tensions are also high in Russia. In protests around the country, some people chanted no to war, and police in riot gear made arrests. In St. Petersburg and Moscow, there are long lines at ATMs following word that some Russian banks have been expelled from SWIFT.